Hello, we are here today to talk about the impact of smart factory solutions on improving manufacturing key performance indicators, or KPI. Today's presentation is being presented in conjunction with Factory Eye from Magic Software. Since founding Visual Decisions in 2002, I've been in the business of using systems that collect information from the shop floor to improve manufacturing performance. During that time, I've worked with vendors that provide old school MES systems, data historians, SCADA systems, dedicated OEE solutions, IoT platforms, and many others. In my opinion, Factory Eye holds a unique place in the market due to their blending of IoT platform capabilities with MES level functionality into a single solution. This enables both a rapid time to value and the flexibility to handle nearly any shop floor data requirement thrown its way. It's a fantastic choice to implement the improvements we will discuss today. If you are interested in learning more about Factory Eye, please reach out to me with the contact information provided at the end of the presentation. Our primary goal for today is to look at how to map the key metrics, or KPI, in manufacturing to capabilities provided by smart manufacturing solutions. While this webinar will focus on the mapping itself, please take a look at our other webinars and articles for detailed information on each of the topics. For instance, I will reference the root cause analysis. Root cause analysis is dramatically improved through these solutions, but I did a whole webinar back in December that did a deep dive just into that one particular topic. If you have questions as we go along, please enter them into the Q&A in Zoom or into the chat and comments in LinkedIn. Or again, reach out to me after the presentation. While some companies use different categories for their metrics, these are the most common ones I've seen. Safety, quality, delivery, and cost are the ones on display on nearly every metric board I've seen displayed during hundreds of plant process walks. Inventory, manpower, and environmental metrics have become much more common over the past 5 to 10 years as well. Some manufacturing entities also incorporate purchasing and R&D metrics into the reporting, but I won't be focusing on those in today's discussion. Over the years, my team has mapped individual metrics in each of these different categories to the typical causes for poor performance in each one. We've then mapped many of the capabilities provided through smart manufacturing solutions to those root causes of performance. More detail on that in a second. The agenda for the remainder of the webinar is to look at each of the categories in more detail and the impact of smart factory on the metrics in that particular category. So here's a quick example of our mapping process. For each metric, or KPI, there are functional and financial inputs that get associated with that business opportunity. These inputs will help us convert that functional KPI into a financial benefit for the company. More on how we do that in a few weeks during our webinar on VDI value mapping solution. Next, based on our decades of experience with customers across a range of industries, we can break each opportunity down into the key impediments to performance in that area. The OEE example is a relatively simple one. This has an industry standard associated with it, which is the 6 big losses as shown in the diagram in orange. The next step is to walk through the different enablers and capabilities that can be put in place as part of the Industry 4.0 initiative. These would be things like improved root cause analysis, better improvement events, faster reaction to downtime events, predictive maintenance, etc. And at each stage of the analysis, we're working with the stakeholders to estimate how much contribution each of the causal factors has to the opportunity. And we also then work with the stakeholders to map how much of an impact the enablers will have to mitigating or eliminating each of those causal factors. Next, we'll take a more detailed look at how we improve safety, quality, delivery, cost, inventory, manpower, and environmental metrics. As is traditional, we'll start by looking at safety. For each of these categories, we'll start by listing some of the most common metrics in that area. Then I'll walk through how the smart factory can impact these metrics, and I'll close each section by giving a more detailed example. For safety, some of the most common KPI are recordables, lost work days, near misses, accident reports, workman's comp claims or cost. While this may not be the first area people think of for smart factory impacts, there are actually a number of ways that smart factory solutions can have an impact on worker safety. The first impact to better safety is how smart factory solutions can help with standard work adoption and adherence. Many safety issues happen because workers either don't know the standard work or don't follow the procedures. Industry 4.0 solutions, such as Factory Eye, can display work instructions in context at the work center to help workers follow the standard work much more easily. Training can also be dramatically improved through the use of these solutions. Not only can technology such as augmented or virtual reality be used in the initial training, but process monitoring solutions such as Factory Eye can also be used to track deviations to the normal process so that supervisors and management can reinforce training as the employee works the process. These solutions can also be used to monitor and improve workstation ergonomics. Motion tracking systems can be used to identify dangerous tasks and optimize workstation design. Visual analysis can also replace repetitive measurements. And environmental tracking and alerts can also be critical to proper safety. The customer example on the next page walks through a dramatic case study for this. The solutions can also connect to the machines to track when they're being operated outside of standards. So in one extreme customer example where it's fortunate that nobody was hurt, a customer had a preventable fire that could have been much worse. This customer had a process where they were processing pure magnesium. The machine doing the processing operated under vacuum conditions because when you expose magnesium to oxygen, you get a very violent reaction that produces extreme amounts of heat and light, actually. The machine doing the process, there was a sensor to test for the vacuum condition, but there was no closed loop process control in place. In this particular case at this customer, smart factory solutions could have been used as a fail-safe to immediately shut down the process if air pressure was sensed in the chamber. In addition, this customer worked with powders that were extremely sensitive to humidity. One of the use cases they had for Industry 4.0 solutions was to use environmental sensing to enable closed loop control of their dehumidifiers and notifying plant management when conditions were such that the powders were likely to clump and become dangerous. Quality is one of the biggest target areas for most of our customers. Improvements to quality have many direct and indirect impacts on the bottom line for most organizations. In addition to internal measures of quality, such as first pass yield, rework hours, and scrap, there are also customer-facing and supplier-facing quality measures. These include customer complaints, product returns, warranty claims, and supplier defective units. Because it is such an area of focus for customers, smart factory solution vendors have packed their solutions with many features that assist with improving quality issues. The first among these is the ability to track the process and identify deviations. This includes tracking output measurements and plotting statistical process control charts, but it also includes tracking the detailed process variables and applying the same principles. By sensing and responding immediately to excess variation, it's possible to get the process back under control before the output is impacted from a quality perspective. When failures do occur, having the detailed information collected by these systems allows for a greatly enhanced root cause analysis process. Smart factory solutions allow for faster and more complete analysis, along with a far broader solution space. In addition, predictive quality capabilities enable customers to utilize machine learning capabilities to go beyond condition monitoring and predict when the process is likely to start producing bad units. This includes analysis for parts that end up in warranty. With a complete set of data being captured and archived, when units later show up in warranty claims, it's possible to correlate production variables to the units that end up in warranty versus those that do not. Industry 4.0 solutions can also be used to enhance error proofing on the shop floor. One example of this is using augmented reality for verifying that pick and place components are being selected from the correct bins. Another use is for shop floor systems, such as Factory Eye, to ensure machine settings are correct for the item being produced. They can also be used to monitor for deviations from standard work to help reinforce training on the shop floor. Quality can also be significantly improved by providing in-context, hands-free visual instructions. When operators can easily see these instructions in the context of their work, it not only reduces error rates, but also facilitates a greater variety of builds with less training required. And finally, for companies where the product is sensitive to environmental conditions, process adjustments can be made automatically. For example, we implemented a prescriptive quality project at a major munition supplier for the military. Because of the sensitivity of the powder being loaded in each round to the ambient humidity, the customer was building a sample to be tested at the beginning of each product run. They would then send that sample to the test range where information about the velocity, pressure, and accuracy was collected and put in a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet was then emailed to the engineering staff to get recommendations on adjustments to how many grains of powder should be loaded in each round. These recommendations were then emailed to the line supervisor, who would receive them the next time that they went to their production office. At that point, they would go back out to the floor and adjust the filler to produce another sample. This process would get repeated until the sample rounds passed testing. The problem, of course, is that it took hours at best to complete this loop each time. So when the production would start, the humidity inside the plant could be enough different that all the rounds being produced would be out of spec again. In addition, if conditions changed during the run, as was fairly common in the spring and summer, the rounds would also be out of spec. This problem was solved by implementing a closed loop adjustment to the process control based on the humidity sensors put into the plant and a learning system that started with the rules from engineering and then improved over time. This and other controls implemented at the facility helped the customer reduce their cost of scrap by 50% per year. The metrics in the delivery category relate to production efficiency, production totals, and related measures. Typical KPI for delivery are OEE, shipped units, on time in full percentage, schedule adherence percentage, stock shortages, lead time, days of backlog, and many more. Smart factory solutions help address these issues in many ways. First, much like quality, these systems provide detailed tracking of downtime and production information. This information can be used for issue identification, root cause analysis, and improved problem solving on the shop floor. In addition, maintenance procedures can be completely revised to take great advantage of this information. Reactive maintenance can be dramatically improved by increasing the mean time between failure and the first time fix rate while decreasing the mean time to repair. Preventive maintenance can be improved by optimizing what procedures need to be run and determining the proper interval. Autonomous maintenance tasks can be prompted at the beginning of each shift based on the optimal routine. Condition-based maintenance can be implemented by looking at different process variables and performing maintenance when those thresholds are crossed for things like temperature, vibration, power draw, noise levels, etc. And this can be taken to the next level to implement predictive maintenance using sophisticated machine learning capabilities and a combination of different inputs. In addition, visual controls can be implemented on the shop floor to create positive feedback loops, help with communication, and much more. Planning and scheduling can be improved through better understanding of the actual processing times, initial conditions within the factory, and faster replanning. And finally, lead times can also be greatly reduced by identifying and eliminating non-value add time between operations, improving shop floor material flow and coordination, and reducing the need for work in process inventory by reducing the process variability and setup times. In our example for this category, at a major cosmetics manufacturer, we implemented a project based on raising the plant overall equipment effectiveness. Once the software was in place and collecting data, we implemented what the plant manager called an OEE blitz. Starting with that plant manager on down, all of the senior staff were assigned to production lines in the plant. Over the 12-week project, we used the data to identify the biggest performance issues for each line. We then triaged the problems into different buckets depending on the nature of the issue. The causes for some were easy to identify, while others took more significant analysis. We prioritized the easier issues, even if they were smaller in value, to generate quick wins and also generate momentum for the project. This gave us time to collect additional data to do root cause analysis on the more complex downtime issues as well. We then tackled improvement projects to solve each of those issues that required the more significant analysis. By the end of 12 weeks, we had increased the plant-wide OEE from 42% to 55%. A 31% increase in overall plant capacity within a single 12-week span. Inventory is the next area we'll look at. For more details here, I did a webinar just a few weeks ago on reducing the cash-to-cash cycle time, where I went into great detail about inventory reduction using Industry 4.0. Since payment terms for suppliers and customers are involved, that isn't strictly an inventory measure, cash-to-cash time, but inventory management and net payment terms are essentially the net there. For a quick overview, here are the typical KPI specifically for inventory: raw material turns, WIP turns, finished good turns, and net inventory value. Inventory policy across all three stages of raw, work in process, and finished goods is heavily influenced by performance within manufacturing. By lowering variability, increasing reliability, shortening lead times, and shortening the time between product runs, inventory can be reduced across all three stages. Here are some of the enablers for achieving those goals. All of the changes called out in the quality section and the delivery section apply here. By improving quality, it reduces variability within the manufacturing process. By improving delivery, it's a much larger and more direct impact on inventory. Reducing manufacturing lead time is directly the same as reducing work in process inventory. Improving schedule adherence, reducing setup times, and manufacturing lot sizes allows for a significant reduction in the amount of finished goods that need to be carried as well. Raw material inventory can be reduced by improving communication with vendors, having more reliability in the production schedule, and also improving manufacturing agility to be able to switch to other products when one material stocks out, so that you don't need to carry quite as much safety stock of each material. The combination of all of these factors can lead to great reductions in total inventory. In another scenario, a medical device manufacturer, not of the product shown here, implemented improvements in their manufacturing process. They were able to reduce the average manufacturing lead time by 15 days. This also meant that the number of days spent in work in process inventory was reduced by that same amount of time. In addition to the cost and performance improvements achieved within the plant, they were also able to look at their inventory policies and adjust how much on hand was required of raw and finished goods materials. Because they had a much better visibility of their upcoming schedule in production, and they were able to adhere to it, They were able to give suppliers a much more accurate forecast of their upcoming requirements. And this led to better service levels from the suppliers and a large reduction in raw material inventory. They were also able to recalculate what was required in finished goods inventory. By reducing setup times and lot sizes within the plant, they were able to cycle through products much more quickly. This meant that the time between restocks of finished goods was reduced and the reliability of those shipments was increased quite a bit. As a result, the company was able to drop their finished goods inventory by 25 to 30%, depending on the SKU. Manpower metrics center on employee satisfaction, turnover, and skill levels. Industry 4.0 solutions can have a direct impact on the latter, but they can also have an impact on the first two areas as well. So some typical Manpower KPI are employee turnover rate, absenteeism, open headcount, employee satisfaction percentage, and training days. There are three main areas where Industry 4.0 solutions are going to help with these metrics. The first of these is in training and overall employee skill level. Solutions like augmented reality capabilities can have probably the most direct impact on employee training, as that technology can make training significantly more impactful, less expensive, and more readily available. But the broader range of solutions can also provide many benefits. Solutions such as Factory Eye can display the work instructions as described earlier. There's not as much training required for a new or different employee to step into a process and be productive. Also, as mentioned earlier, the solutions can help track deviations from standard work to help reinforce the training. These solutions can also be used to do skills tracking and schedule the shop floor, taking into account who is qualified to perform which tasks. The second primary area is employee safety. As described in the first section, these solutions can help keep employees safe, which certainly helps to keep them happy at work and keep them actually in the workplace. The third benefit is in employee satisfaction, particularly when recruiting and retaining a younger generation of workers. They want to be involved in something that is interesting and rewarding. An operator role in the Frederick Winslow Taylor tradition will not keep employees happy or at the company these days. Companies can increase their recruiting and retention rates by employing interesting new technologies, putting humans at the center of workplace design, engaging employees' brains as problem solvers, and generally making manufacturing fun again. Just a quick example this time. I don't think I've ever seen a crowd gather on a shop floor like the ones that almost always occur when AR solutions are first demonstrated. Not only are these solutions fantastic for training and getting adherence to standard work, but they're fantastic for bringing an energy and element of excitement to the shop floor. I really can't think of any other technology that is such an immediate boost to employee engagement. Environmental. Most companies look at their environmental scorecard these days, some for publicity, but most because it's something that's becoming core to the values of the organization. But whatever the motivation, in the end, the metrics and the behavior should be the same. So some typical green KPI are total carbon footprint, kilowatt hour usage, water gallons used, natural gas cubic feet consumed, recyclable waste, and unrecyclable waste. There are many different waste reduction initiatives that are outside the scope of today's presentation, but let's focus on the impacts that can be had from digital initiatives on the shop floor. First, once again, all the improvements that we talked about in efficiency and quality that we discussed earlier will help with the scorecard here. These all help to reduce the amount of utilities being consumed and reduce the quantity of waste being produced. In addition to those areas previously discussed, asset level monitoring provides manufacturers an opportunity to identify where they're consuming the most power so that they can manage those processes more closely. At Toyota's Lexington plant, for example, they've created a process to ensure that machines get turned off whenever they're not scheduled to operate. This may seem small, but it actually led to a significant savings in electricity consumption and helped with their green scorecard. This is just one example of how to use smart monitoring and smart factory solutions to eliminate those non-value add consumption points. In this customer example, Visual Decisions worked with a recycling company to improve their process efficiency. In this particular case, we helped them to look at what they termed dents in their overall performance level. These were times when the process output did not meet expectations. We tracked over 130 different process inputs and in-process variables to correlate to the relevant output measurements. In the end, we were able to identify several tags or inputs that were highly predictive of the overall process efficiency. And by more closely controlling those inputs, the company was able to get a significant increase in efficiency and reduce their waste, which was great for a recycling company to reduce their waste. Our final category is cost. I left this for last, not because it is least important, I assure you it's not, but because it is essentially the result of all the other improvements. So typical cost KPI within this category, productivity units per labor hour, cost of poor quality percentage, premium freight percentage, direct labor cost, indirect labor cost, overtime cost, facility spend. The smart factory enablers here are the same ones that we've discussed throughout the other sections. Rather than being repetitive, I'll just use this opportunity for some final thoughts. Many smart manufacturing implementations are performed with a single goal in mind, such as implementing predictive maintenance to increase OEE. That's certainly a worthwhile project and goal. But as we've seen today, a myopic focus on a single metric misses many different opportunities for improvement on the shop floor. In fact, there has not been a single common metric in any of these areas that is not impacted in some way by a robust smart factory implementation. So whether you are considering getting started on a digital transformation in manufacturing or you're already underway, it's fine to start small, focus, and drive success. But you should also think big about the potential impacts of these solutions and how to take full advantage of the capabilities they provide. So that's it for today's webinar. In the coming weeks, we'll be covering a number of great topics on our webinar Wednesdays. Be sure to go to the Visual Decisions website to register for them today. In fact, come back on tomorrow for our regularly scheduled webinar Wednesday, when we'll go through a lot more detail on how to unlock the improvements we saw today through the digital transformation of operational excellence. We do have a few questions in the Q&A that I'll get to. Which smart manufacturing platform is used in this project? I'm here with the Factory Eye solution. It's something that I'm very excited about. I'm working with Magic software to implement that at different customers. It's a very promising platform in that it combines the IoT plus the MES types of capabilities. When key KPI data is uploaded to the platform, do we have to tie the data to any metric IDs? There's a lot of flexibility in terms of when you're taking the data from the process itself, how you do that mapping into the different KPIs. And certainly as part of the implementation, that's part of the process that we walk through, is to perform that mapping. And is KPI data coming from any ERP system? It certainly can be. So these systems provide you the capability of creating dashboards that allow you to take those KPI coming from other sources and incorporate those into some of your reporting as well. And that's one of the strengths of the platform, is that it does tie into those systems very effectively. I don't see any other questions at this time. So I will just do a quick word about visual decisions. We've been in the business of combining the smart factory with the lean factory since about 2002 to drive improvements to cost, throughput, and quality. And for Factory Eye, their implementation methodology looks like this. It is actually a pretty fast time to value, because in sprint 1, within those first 60 to 90 days, you actually get that data from the shop floor to improve your continuous improvement activities, such as Kaizen events and so forth. And you start getting value right away that you can build upon throughout the further sprints. So with that, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at 630-957-8096, or my email or my Calendly, as you see on the screen. And that includes both for just general questions as well as questions about the Factory Eye solution. So with that, I thank you very much and look forward to talking to you again tomorrow, when we will be talking about the digital transformation of operational excellence. Thank you. Bye-bye.